Okay, factoring a complex trinomial. I have an example here at the top, and it's already written completely out. So if you just want to be listening, I'm going to go through this example so that you can do a listen without having to write. Okay, so what is a complex trinomial? That means it's a trinomial that doesn't start with just x squared, okay? Has some kind of a value besides 1. Okay, so here are the steps. Okay, remembering the whole idea of factoring is working backwards of that FOIL. So we're always going to kind of relate everything to FOIL. Okay, so my first step is I'm going to figure out the FL number. Okay, so what does FL mean? It means the first times the last. So 12 times -5 is -60. Okay? What do I know about the signs in my factors? How do you multiply to a negative value? What am I going to need? I'm going to need 1 positive, and I'm going to need 1 negative, right? That's how you're going to get a negative number. So now you're going to try to think of what multiplies to 60. 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, 6 times 10. Okay, you're going to think of all the options that can get you to 60. And then at the same time, you're going to have to make an 11 with adding. So it's kind of similar to the simple trinomial. There's something about multiplying and something about adding. The only difference is we have to consider the FL multiplier, not just the L. Okay, so I'm going to pick 4 times 15. I have to negate one of them, and my goal is to get a plus 11. So I'm going to be doing a positive 15 and a negative 4. So does that multiply to this? Yes. Does it add to this? Okay. Now, what I did was I listed everything possible that I could do to get my F. So how could I have ever made a 12x squared? I could do 1x times 12x, 2x times 6x, or 3x times 4x. Then I figured out what could I possibly do to get my L. 1 times 5 is the only thing. Then the rest is like a puzzle. So now I'm trying to puzzle my groups together to make a 4 and a 15. So you can see in my shapes here, I'm going to make a 4. You see the 4 out of that? And I'm going to make a 15. Okay, and then I line them up in the FOIL. So the first times the first, I'm picking the 3x times 4x. Then on the outside, I'm connecting 4 with a 1. And then on the inside, I'm connecting a 3 with a 5. So do you see all my FOIL pieces? Okay, so you should never get a factor wrong, because why? You're so good at multiplying. So what does first times first make? 12x squared. What does this outside make? Negative 4x. What does the inside make? 15x. So what does that combine to be? 11x. What's the last times the last? So do you see how I should never get a factor wrong? Because I know how to FOIL that out. Okay, now what you do is you try to figure out what makes this factor 0. What makes this factor 0? Okay, so I'm going to have to move the 5 over, and then I'm going to have to divide by 4. I'm going to have to move the 1 over, And then I'm going to have to divide by 3. Okay? So the little shortcut here is always opposite divide. Opposite divide. Because you're going to have to move, divide. Okay, here we go. Step 1. What is your FL number? So if you were to have the first number and the last number multiplying to -6. -6, right? Okay, what do you already know about the signs involved? There's one plus and there's going to be one minus sign. How could we multiply to 6? We could be doing a 1 times a 6 or 2 times 3. How can I make a 5 out of this? Can you get a 5 with a 1 and a 6? Yeah. Can you get a 5 with a 2 and a 3? Yeah. One of them is correct and one of them is wrong. It all has to do with the signs. Which one would it have to be? I want you to think about that. How do you make a positive 5 out of these sets? One of these digits would have to be a plus and one minus. Would that work? Does that make plus 5? Adding? Does it make -6 multiplying? Okay. Why did I have to not pick this one, even though I could make a 5 out of it? What's wrong with the 5? To make a 5, I would have to do a plus plus. Is that going to make a -6? No. Okay, now what are we going to do? We're going to talk about how can we get this f. There's only one option. How do you make 3x squared? 1x times 3x. That's the only thing. How do you make L? What's the multiples of L? 1 times 2. That's it. Not many options. Okay. Partnership time. This is the puzzle. What are you going to put with what to make a 6? Does that make 6x? And then what are you going to put with what to make a 1x? Okay, do you see my partnerships now? I have a 1x and a 6x. Okay, so let's line them up. So we have our factors, remembering that we always have to be equal to 0. Always equal 0 every time you see an equation. So if there's not a 0 there, you got to maneuver it. 1x times 3x. First times first. So I'm doing my FOIL stuff. First times first. Okay, now I need you to draw me some arcs here. Your arcs are going to connect the outside and the inside. These are the FOIL parts. Outside swivel, inside swivel. Okay, so what did we connect here? What did we do? We wanted the 1x to be with a 1 minus. So there's my minus 1x. And then on this hook, we wanted the 3x to be with a 2 to make a 6x, a minus 6 or plus 6x. Okay, what do? Just quickly check your FOIL. Did it work out? First times first, 3x squared. Check. Do your outsides and your insides go together to be 5x? Does your last times your last make that last? Does everybody see the FOIL components? First, this is outside and inside, and then the last. Okay, so what is the solution to this? X will equal what produces a 0 if X was -2? And on this one, do you remember my little trick? Think about your algebra. If you had this equal to 0, how would you solve it? You'd have to move that number opposite, and then you would have to divide the 3 to get the X alone, right? Algebra, right? Move and then divide. Okay, do you guys also know on a test you can see if you're right? How would I see if I'm right? Okay, I can grab a calculator. If X is 1/3, let's try that. Here I go. What is 3 times 1/3 squared? So I'm plugging it in, right? Plus 5 times 1/3, subtract 2. And I'm going to push equals, and what should I get on my calculator if I'm right? 0. Okay? So it plugs in, gets 0. Okay. What does this also mean in a graph? What does it mean? Remember what this is all about. It means the x-intercepts are at -2 and at 1/3. Okay? Okay, let's try a bit of a harder one. So that one wasn't hard because there was only one option to puzzle with. I guess it was tricky because I wanted you to note that the 5 all depends on the plus or the minus. I also get, if something multiplies to 24 and then there's a 10, you have to be careful with that one because of the 12(2) and the 4(6). 4 times 6 makes 24 and a 10, and 12 times 2 makes 24 and could add to a 10. So those ones are also the same idea where you got to be tricky with the signs. Okay, here we go. Starting off, I'm going to do a flow number. So the first and then the last multiply to -90. If I'm multiplying to negative, I can also tell you something that there's going to be a plus sign and a minus sign involved. Okay, so some options. I could have done a 1 times 90, 2 times 45. Is it divisible by 3? Yes, 3 times 30. Do you think it's divisible by 4? No, because 4 times 88 is divisible by 4, so no. Should it be divisible by 5? Yes, because it ends in 0. I want to guess 18, if anybody did it. 6? I don't think so. Oh, it is. 6 times 15. 7, no, 8, no, 9 times 10. Okay, we need something there that will give me an add to the middle. So I need something to make this on the adding, a -9x. Which set can do that? Thinking 1 is plus and 1 is minus, and I need a -9. This is the set. 6 minus 15 is -9. Okay, now we're going to go back to this and we're going to say How could I have made the f? 1x times 10x. That would have been one option. Or 2x times 5x. How can you make this L? 1 times 9 or 3 times 3. Okay. Partnership. This is the puzzle part. You got to figure out a connection to put together to make a 6 and a 15. See if you can find a set to go with a set. Some kind of partner here and here, making a 6 and a 15. Okay, there's my sets. You can't mix and match sets. You can't pick something from this set and then this set, right? Can't do that. So there's my 6x and my 15x. Okay, now we have all the numbers, so we have to think about what to line them up with. So in the factor brackets, first times first, that's going to be the 2x times the 5x. 10x squared, check. Okay, I'm going to make my outside hooks and my inside hooks. Okay, so my 2x has to be with a 3, and we wanted to make that a plus 6x. There's that, okay? And then the 5x also has to go with a 3, and then that's going to be the minus 15x. Okay, and then I'm going to shortcut this to solve it. I'm just going to think. Algebraically, I'd have to move this and divide this. So opposite, divide, multiplier. Opposite, divide. Okay, move the number, divide the coefficient, right? That's all I'm doing.